Greetings, everybody. This is Mr. Lowe. We are coming to you today with lesson 8-1. We're actually going to do 8-1 and 8-2 today, both at the same time, and I think you'll understand why. So let's focus first on 8-1. So get your notebooks out, and let's make sure we got the label down. We've got 8-1. You've put today's date somewhere up here in the right-hand corner, and let's go ahead and start doing our math. So topic 8 involves multiplying fractions, and we learn how to do multiplying fractions first by understanding how to multiply first a fraction by a whole number and then a whole number by a fraction. So we're going to kind of do both of those today, and I think you'll understand what I'm talking about here. So we got Joanne wants to make 6 batches of fruit punch. How much cups of fruit punch does she need, or cups of orange juice does she need? So she uses 2/3 cups of orange juice for each batch, and she wants to make 6 batches. So just like Joanne says right here, hey, we need to do this. We need to find 6 times 2/3. So there's a lot of different ways we can solve this. You can use repeated addition, which is, I think, a waste of your time, so don't do that. We can draw models, which again are fine, but I mean, realistically, what we want to do is we want to solve this in one of two ways. When we multiply using fractions, I like to take that whole number 6 and I like to turn it into a fraction by putting a 1 under it. And now I'm just multiplying 6 over 1 times 2 over 3, which is 6 times 2, which is 12, 3 times 1, which is 3, and 12 divided by 3 is 4, or 3 goes into 12 4 separate times. So that's one way to look at it. Another way that I think is kind of neat is, again, we take 6 times 2/3, except now I'm going to rewrite 2/3 as a whole number, 2 times a fraction, 1/3. And it's going to be 1 times 1/3 because 1/3 is our unit fraction. Now I can just go ahead and do the math pretty easily in my head. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 1/3 is 12/3. And then again, I get a 4. So I like either one of those methods. You guys can kind of figure out what you want to do. Some of you are going to be able to do this mentally, and that's fine, which is great. But sometimes you're going to get bigger fractions. So let's take a look at another problem. Now we have 35 times 2/5. So when we do 35 times 2/5, let's do it two different ways. So over here, I've got 35 times 2/5. I would multiply 35 times 2 and then divide all that by 5. Well, 35 times 2, I believe, is 70. And 70 divided by 5. If I didn't know exactly what that was, I would have to do a division problem. So I could do 70 down here. I could do a long division problem. 70 divided by 5. 5 goes into 7 once. I subtract. I bring down. 5 goes into 20 4 times. I subtract. I get 0. So 70 divided by 5 equals 14. That would be my answer. Or I can do it the other way, right? We got 35 times 2/5, and I split 2/5 into 2 times my unit fraction, which is 1/5. And now all I'm doing is the same math I did over here, I'm doing over here. So I've got 35 times 2, which is 70, 70 times 1, which is 70/5. And we just got to do our division problem. 70 divided by 5 is 14. I know that because I already did my math over here. So you're going to be working today on a couple of different things. So you're going to see a fraction times a whole number. You are also going to see a whole number times a fraction. So does it matter whether or not this is 35 times 2/5 or 2/5 times 35? The answer to that question is no, and that is due to the commutative property of multiplication, which allows us to turn those two numbers around. So that's kind of the idea today. So 8-1 is going to be problems similar to this. 8-2 is going to be problems similar. Now we have a fraction and we're multiplying it by a whole number. So now it's flip-flopped. So in previous lessons, it was the whole number first. Now you're looking at the whole number is going to be second. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're still solving this as 2 times 15 and then dividing it by 3. So 2 times 15 would be 30. 30 divided by 3 would be 10. I would say the answer here is 10. So as you are working today, you need to make sure you show all your work. Please write down all the problems. I know some of them are going to be really, really simple. It's going to go fast, which is great. But let's get into that habit because some of the problems are going to get rather large and the multiplication is going to be rather complex. So you want to make sure that you are doing all of your work. So for this one, we would have to do 11 times 6, which is 66, divided by 12. And if you cannot do 66 divided by 12, you got to go ahead and make sure that you write it out. Now, let's do this one here. And I'll have to use my mouse pad this time, which is fine. So I know it's 11 times 6. So there's my 11. There's my multiplication sign. There's my 6. And I know I'm dividing that all by 12. And that equals 66 divided by 12. Now, because I can't do that math in my head, I need to go make a long division problem. So 66 is my dividend. It goes inside. 12 is my divisor. It goes outside. So now I got to think, well, 12 times what gets me really, really close to 66? I know it's going to be less than 6 because 10 times 6 is 60. So 12 times 6 is going to be more than 60. So I want to go off to the side and I'm going to try 12. That's a horrible 2. Let me erase that. And again, I'm writing with my mouse, so just bear with me here. 12, not divided by. Let's do 12 times 5. Well, 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5. So that gets me to be 60. So if I put a 5 up here and a 60 down here, now when I do my subtraction, I get 66 minus 60, which is 6. I can rewrite this remainder, right? I'm not going to annex zeros today. We're going to rewrite the remainder as a fraction. So that remainder becomes my numerator and my divisor becomes my denominator. So now I know my answer is 5 and 6/12. Well, 6/12 is equal to 1/2. So I would say my answer would be 5 and a half. Do you need to simplify? No, not necessarily. So if you write this down as 5 and 6/12, that would be fine. Again, guys, you got to make sure you understand the remainder, what you have left over, is your numerator, and your divisor is your denominator when you're trying to write that remainder as a fraction. All right, so I'm going to let you guys go. You want to make sure there's going to be a second video that's going to be posted. You might want to take a look at that because it does show a quick, simple shortcut to making the math problems a lot easier to do. So I would go ahead and try that. All right. If you have any questions, you want to make sure that you raise your hand, ask your neighbors, ask your partner who you're working with, or come up and find me and ask me. All right. You guys have a great day.